Hello tanks and tankettes, welcome to the third of my Patreon supporter videos, and we're kicking off with an ELC game from Yachty, and you saw an ELC game from him last time round. Well, you're going to have another one, because he really likes his ELC. And I've actually got two scout games for you in this particular collection of replays, and I thought we'd warm up with this one, because it's not your typical ELC game, and there was actually one or two comments under the last video of people saying, well, actually it's quite nice to see somebody doing some kind of solid, sensible scouting as opposed to what you normally see ELCs doing, which is running around like a Mad March hare and just whizzing and dodging all the shells. And yes, it's very fun to watch, but you're not really learning a whole lot from it. So this is Prokhorovka. You can see he's got basically regular tier 5 matchmaking. It's pretty good. And he's lighting up this flank for his team. He's got actually kind of a passive scouting setup. He might have optics in addition to having the binoculars there. I don't know. But the diminutive size of this thing means it has a very good camo rating. It's very good for sitting in bushes that a lot of other scouts couldn't use. And although the base view range isn't great, if you use something like the binoculars, you can boost that significantly. Now, when he fired that shot at the Chaffee, like that's the essence of this kind of scouting. You do not fire. You hold fire and let your team do the work for you, and then you reap the rewards as you get all the spotting damage. He clearly thought that Chaffee was coming towards him and he was going to get spotted anyway, at which point you might as well take the shot and get a bit of damage out of it. And with a lot of scouts, what you could do is you could turn your turret in the direction of the enemy vehicles, but you position your hull so you're facing downslope, and then you can make a faster getaway. You can't really do that in an ELC because, of course, it's only got that partially rotating turret. So that's the enemy scout down. That SU-152 he's going to die doing no damage. I'm not sure he ever saw any of the things that were shooting at him. Like, he would have seen Yachty when Yachty was briefly lit up. But otherwise, he's had a pretty bad game, unfortunately. We can see that there were a few tanks on the 9-0 line, and we don't have a lot on that side of the map. The majority of our team is on this side of the map. And they're all being a bit hesitant to move up, so it's up to Yachty to, like, he's got to be a bit more active at this point. So there's that T-20, and Yachty's disengaging, having lit up that guy. There might still be one or two things back there, we don't know. But, yeah, he's taking no risks. And he's, like, he clearly knows the ELC quite well. He knows what it can do, and he knows when to be aggressive, when to be passive. So this is, yeah, I felt like this might be interesting for people to see, because the last one had a lot more in the previous video. It was a lot more. He was having to do damage. He's having to use that marvelous little 90mm gun that the ELC gets. But this is much more of a kind of a sensible, solid scouting game where, yes, he's having to move around at various points and doing things, but he's not really taking unnecessary risks. Now he does take the opportunity to Opportunitity, yes, that one, to shoot the T-20. Who possibly has a damaged ammo rack, because, yeah, he does not get the opportunity to fire once. Maybe his loader was out also, I don't know. Either of those two things. There was also an artillery that got spotted that his team took out, and as you're about to see in a moment, all that's left on the enemy team is the tanks that went to the hill and a single T-21 scout. Now, he could just whiz right up there and, you know, we could cue the Matrix music, but no, he's still being, like, he knows what his view range is, and he's using that to just spot for his team, and he's getting the experience that way. And you can guess that this is going to be a good spotting match, because I wouldn't be showing you it with just like 472 damage done. That'd be a bit naff. Although it's still, like, regardless of the numbers, I feel like there's still, you could still learn something from watching this even. So the enemy team really didn't do very well. They are down to a single IS, and our team's only lost 3 tanks. Now, Yachty definitely sped up the 1-2-3 line. Like, that's the power of a good scout on a map like this, is that you can significantly speed things up. His team was really not moving up very far, and he had to take the lead at times. But they did eventually get moving, and they were shooting at the stuff that he was spotting. And he could have tried to go for the glory and take that last kill, but no, again, quite content to get the spotting, and it paid off. With 472 damage done, he got patrol duty and an ace tanker game. So Yeah, that was... I mean, that's a good map for doing this. Like, Prokhorovka for some tanks is terrible, but for a scout tank, depending on the matchmaking, depending on what you're facing, it can be really good. And as we can see, it was really good for Yachty. 472 damage done, top of his team on XP, and it wasn't like he was shooting at like tier 8 and tier 9 tanks with this gun. And so, what did he have to do to get that? Well, 3.8k spotting. So there we go. That's how you get an ace tanker in less than 6 minutes with only firing your gun twice. Yachty loves his ELC, what can I say? We'll probably see more of these games in future. I'll try not to spam them too much, but they're quite entertaining for me to watch. So next up, we have Manti111, and this is one of a pair of replays he sent me. I might use the other one at some point, it was also a pretty good game. But I chose this one. It's the E50M, the tier 10 German medium tank. And yes, even on Himmelsdorf, artillery will find a way. So this is probably the tier 10 that I am myself closest to unlocking. I have one tier 10 medium tank at the moment, the British tier 10, the FE4202. It's okay. It's hard to get excited about it. The gun handling's very, very good. The rate of fire is pretty good. But the rest of it's just kind of like meh. The E50M, on the other hand, well, I'm really enjoying the E50. This is, it's just a good all-rounder. It's got pretty decent armor. It's got a pretty decent gun, and you can ram stuff. Next to the KV5, this is probably one of the best ramming machines in the game. So he's already managed to put a nice shot into that AMX 30, which is the kind of shot that I probably would never be able to make. Well, this is one of the reasons why I'm not particularly great at medium tank gameplay, because you need to be able to make those fast shots. You need to be able to react faster than the other guy. I can't necessarily do that most of the time. Unfortunately, that time he took a hit, and one of the things with the E50 and the E50M that is always worthwhile knowing is that the turret base is not particularly strong. But that one, well, one went in his tracks, and the other bounced off the side of his turret. So the armor's still pretty decent for a medium tank. Manages to bounce one off the MX-30 turret in return, but the guy has gone down, and it's just the 121. Now, let's look at the minimap right now. His team didn't really cover the 7-8 line, much if at all. The enemy team were able to just go down there, and now the remainder of his team that's gone down is Batchat, E75, Waffly 100, and the artillery. They're kind of cut off and surrounded. What's left on the hill? Well, there's the Object 704 that's going down the far side, and there's these medium tanks. So we're just going to skip ahead slightly here. The T-54 and the Leopard will take out that E75. The Batchat, the E75 on our side are going to die, the artillery is going to die, and the Object 704, well, he might get in a hit before he goes down, but he's also going to die. So, yes, a little bump to a friendly tank there, but he has another bump in mind. He's going to bump into this enemy tank. Takes 80 damage, but does 175 in return, so yes. He lost a bit of momentum nudging his friendly tank, but it's just one of those things, I think, if you're a driver of either of the E50s or the KV5, like if you see an opportunity to ram something, sometimes you will throw caution to the wind, you will throw sense to the wind, and you will just go for it like a madman, and if it works out, it can be hilarious. Anyway, the E75 died, the Object died, unfortunately. We're down to 4 medium tanks versus 4 tank destroyers and 3 artillery. And this is where this replay kind of comes into its own. It's the power of medium tanks, because Sercon has many times, and probably will continue to say many times, that if you want to be good in this game, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, you know, I'm sure you would use different language, but if you want to be kind of consistently at your best with this game, you mostly want to play medium tanks. But you have to be kind of good at that playstyle, which I'm not particularly. But if you can get good at medium tanks, then that is the way to like have a consistently good win rate and WNA and all that kind of thing. You just play the high tier mediums. The Russians and the Germans and the French, not so much the Chinese. I don't see people getting excited by the Chinese mediums so much. Like the tier 7's generally quite well regarded, but tiers 8, 9 and 10, I've not seen anyone be particularly enthusiastic about them before. But yeah, you're going to see some flavour of that Y in this. Oh, hello, artillery. in this particular replay, because even though the enemy machines, they've got the firepower advantage, certainly, the mediums have definitely got the mobility advantage and the snapshot advantage. Now, he's been able to hurt that waffle, put 2 shots in now. He's switching to an HG shell. If he can get the gun shield, he might be able to do a lot of damage indeed. The 110E4 is also coming down from the other side, and unfortunately we lost the 30B. But still, you know, he's got a decent amount of health left. He's in a decently armoured tank, and even though that's an E4 that's left, well, watch what's about to happen. Takes the guy in the tracks. Okay, that was a bit of a snapshot. It was a little bit lucky, but he was aiming for that general area, and it paid off. Is able to do the same thing again, and bounces a shot from the E4. Now, he would have survived it, but even so, it was awfully nice not to have taken that shot. And again, just neatly through the axle, no fuss, you know, goodbye E4. Over 4,000 damage, and nearly 5,000 damage at this point. And things are not looking so good for the enemy team. We don't know what health the Jagdtiger was on. The Jagdtiger packs a bit of a punch, but it's got no turret. Oh, and there he is. He's at 1 shot, and now he's no more. So, this is why, even though the numbers were against him, the fact that it was medium tanks versus a bunch of tank destroyers on a map like Himmelsdorf, well, it's maybe not surprising it kind of went like this. Now, obviously the medium tanks still have to be well driven, but even so, the tank destroyers were at a bit of a disadvantage at that particular stage. So there's the first artillery, and he and the T-54 have done a rather sensible thing. Like, they're actually, this is almost wolf packing behaviour, and they're not even in a platoon. Like, they've split up to come from different directions, because the artillery can only look so many ways at once. So the T-54 picks up that kill, and we know where the M53-55 was last spotted, so he's probably still in this corner as well. That thing is reasonably mobile, and because it's got that semi-turret, it is fairly dangerous, even up close, because you don't have to turn the machine to aim necessarily. But as it was, he fires, and this time Manty's able to get the kill. So there we go, 5.7k damage, no problem. Wasn't even an ace tanker, but definitely a high caliber. I mean, I really like that gun on the E50. I can't remember if it's exactly the same gun, but it's like 105mm that does 390 average damage. Very nice gun indeed. And just the machine itself, well, that was just a pitch-perfect medium tank game. And even though the odds were seemingly against them at the end, you look at the score screens, Manty did a lot of the team's damage. The T-54 in second place was 2,200, you know, still not bad, 4 kills. Third place was a Speerpanzer, who obviously got a lot of spotting damage, not bad on Himmelsdorf. And then the rest of the team, well, the tanks that did the best were the medium tanks, generally speaking. So, yes, that was not a bad match indeed. 20 shots fired, 18 hits, 16 pens, enough for nearly 6,000 damage. He also bounced a fair bit, 1,900, nearly 2,000 damage. Drove 3.5 kilometers, you know, just all in a day's work for a medium tank. Now, I promise you, 2 different ones in the middle. We've had a very good medium tank replay, and now we're going to see a very good T30 replay. Now, you're going to notice part of the screen's blurred out, and I've edited the score screens at the end. Now, this is, we're going to call him Gallant Human. I don't know why he asked me, but he did, to not show his account name. He said, you know, personal reasons, so okay, I'm going to respect that. And he said, you can call me Gallant Human instead, so I do have something to call him. I don't just have to call him Dave. But this is the T30 with the big 155mm gun. And I've only very recently unlocked this myself. It's a big, powerful gun on that very bouncy American turret. But at tier 9, that hull armor is not worth a whole lot. So you do have to play a little more cautiously than you would with a T29, even a T32 or a T34. Your matchmaking is always going to effectively be worse, but you've got a honking great big gun. And it's actually, like, it's useful with the 120mm. It's actually, at that point, a better T34, but with worse matchmaking. But this is what gives this tank its flavour. It's that 155mm gun. And the reload's kind of long, but it's a big gun, so it kind of, you know, it makes sense. It would be a little unfair if you could pump out the shots every 10 seconds. So that T20 never stood a chance. This is an encounter mode battle, by the way. Look at where our SD1 is. Yeah. I mean, well, I can tell you now, that SD1, he's going to die. He does do some damage before he goes down, but he puts himself in an isolated position where basically he can't get away and no one can help him. That's usually a bad plan, and as it turns out, this time, yes, indeed, it was a very bad plan indeed. Now, Gallant Human here, we'll just call him Gallant. He has to do a lot of the pushing. Like, the friendlies on the other flank do appear to be outnumbered, so we have the numbers advantage on this flank. And you can see that Gallant trying to finish off that T28 prop. Switches to an HE shell here, don't know why, but anyway. But he has to do a lot of the pushing. There's a bunch of heavy tanks behind him. Yes, there's an ISU around. Yes, there's a Tiger off on the flank. But this flank is really not moving very quickly. And there's, what? Pair of IS-3s, T-44. I mean, the Rheinmetall's not going to want to be at the front, and the KV-3's not going to want to be at the front. But there's also a Scout. He's basically the furthest forward at this point. And one of the IS-3 finally finds its man pants. And even though, yes, okay, this is very top-tier matchmaking for Gallant, this isn't necessarily a machine. I mean, like, that can happen. You get troll bounces like that with this gun. And okay, Maluminium's not quite as effective as Stalinium, but sometimes it will give bounces like that. But yeah, anyway. You have to be able to pull back to reload because you've got that very long reload. You can't afford to just sit there and take the punishment for like 16, 17 seconds because you don't really have the hit points for it and you don't really have the hull armor for it. So if you can be hull down, then fine. But you can't just sit looking somebody in the face while you're sitting there reloading. And yeah, it's not going to work. So he needs other people to actually press their W keys as well. And one of the IS-3s is kind of doing so. Now, he finally gets a shot into that WZ-111. The IS-3's finally moving up. The other IS-3 is just sitting at the back doing IS-3 things. And this IS-3 that's moving well, unfortunately he takes a hit both from the Scout and the WZ-111. But Gallant is finally loaded, takes out the WZ, and then rams the 132. Meanwhile, that Tiger 1's shooting HE. Because, of course he is. Naturally. The other flank, unfortunately, has collapsed. And if we're to save this, well, it involves getting the cap. Because they're very, very close to capping this. Now, we have still got, aside from Gallant, we've got two IS-3s, a T-44, a Rheinmetall 1390. And we've seen how powerful a Scout can be on a map where they've got space to roam, and this is one of those maps, Erlenberg. It took a moment to remember that. I almost said Ruinberg, but no, that's an entirely different burger. That's a whole other burg. But the 1390, unfortunately, well, you can see he's tangling with an enemy IS-8. It's not going to go well. Gallant, meanwhile, looking for shots that he appears to be doing. Our IS-3s are going there, the KV-3 is going there, but there are enemy tanks shooting from all over the place. However, they're not particularly paying attention to Gallant, so goodbye Rheinmetall. There's kill number... was that kill number 6? Yeah, I believe it was. That's a top gun already. Now, given the amount of damage this gun can do, it's a pretty cheap top gun, but even so, he's had to do the lion's share of the killing so far. The IS-3 that we can see, well, one of them's died, the other is pretty damn low health, and... oh, this is bad, this is bad. They're very, very... I mean, we're very evenly matched. They have an AMX-30 who's very mobile, and who is on their flank. So this is pretty bad. Gallant can be shot in the back, and he's about to take a hit from the 87. Oh, that 87, by the way, he's going to make a shot later on that is just going to blow your mind. But they are so close to capping. Come on, Gallant, you can do it. He's determined not to let them cap. He's just determined to not let it happen, and bounces and shot on the back of his turret in the process. But he gets there with literally, like, there's probably less than a second to spare. Less than a second. It's down to him and a T-44 versus a T-34, who must be in the cap, and yes, there he is. And that 87 who is, well, he's 2 tiers lower, but the gun is more than enough to hurt a T-30. Now this is a really bad position. He can get shot from both sides, from both front and back. He's also got HE loaded. I don't think he meant to have HE loaded. I think he hadn't realised that maybe it was so he could do a guaranteed decap. Maybe that was his thought process. I'm not sure. But either way, you know, I mean, if an HE shell, if you were able to pen the side of a T-34 with an HE shell or into the engine deck or something, you'd probably do a boatload of damage. But it's unlikely to happen from the front. Meanwhile, the T-44 has managed to get the drop on the AMX-30, and that significantly helps out Gallant, because suddenly he's only got these two vehicles in front of him to worry about now. He doesn't have to worry about being shot from both sides. But somehow the 87, as the T-44 is going around the southern flank of that hill, the 87 gets in a shot that kills him. I do not know how the hell he managed that. That was some shooting. I mean, that was just... That must have been like just the edge of his render range. That was an incredible shot. Unfortunately, it's also incredibly unlucky for Gallant, who's now in a situation where it's 2 versus 1, and he has a really long reload. The T-34 has also now switched to premium ammo, and I can't really blame him, because this is a crunch situation. Now, HE shell on the 87, well, that was a guaranteed kill. At this point, I think this is why I think I don't like. He didn't realise he was firing HE, because he then switches to an AP when he's half reloaded with an HE shell. So, okay, this is a bit tense. Now he can sit here and be hull down, but this guy's firing Prem, and if he knows to shoot at the turret weak spot, which is what it looks like he's trying to do, well, this is all down to RNG in a way. I mean, we need those shots from the T-34 to bounce. Now, he could have shot the side armor. I think it would actually overmatch on the T-34, but he waited until he had a bit of the front of the hull to shoot at. Unfortunately, RNGesus does not come through for him, so that was a mastery on a defeat with the Defender Medal, a high caliber, and a Top Gun. And yes, that censoring, though, it took hours to do, I tell you. Hours and hours. But unfortunately for Gallant, it was just not quite enough. He needed one more bounce. He probably would have had that. But as it was, the T-34 on the enemy team was able to secure that win for them. And, well, you can see from Gallant's team, he was by far and away the best player. Although the Rheinmetall did pretty decently damage-wise. But the other Tier 9s on his team didn't do that well. And maybe it's one of these cases where if maybe one or two people had done one or two more damaging hits against enemy tanks. Like, I'm not sure there's any one thing that Gallant did there particularly wrong, apart from that first HE shell at the T-34. That right there quite probably cost the match. But the AP, like if it had AP shells in that place, okay. Who knows? Anyway, on to the next one. This is Sebedie. We're just going to call him Seb. This is his very first M41 Walker Bulldog game. Now, the Walker Bulldog has a reputation as being a pretty good machine. I think he actually must have spent some free XP on this thing, because it looks like it's got its Top Gun, but I'm not certain. You might be able to tell from the rate of fire. I don't know. It's definitely not the autoloader, though. But there's the middle gun and the top gun on this have basically the same damage and pen. It's just they have different soft stats, like aim time, reload time, all that kind of thing. So we're here on Kampinovka. This is pretty good matchmaking for a Walker Bulldog. Mostly tier 8s. In fact, not even mostly tier 8s. Only about the top third of each team's tier 8s. It's mostly tier 7s and tier 6s. So he's going to have a comfortable, like, not only is he going to be able to outspot a lot of these machines, but he's also going to have a gun that's effective against most, if not all of them. So, yeah, it's going to hopefully be a nice match. Hopefully he just spots things and his teammates shoot them and he gets a bunch of spotting damage. Hopefully. Now note how much ammo he's got. 41 shells of APCR, which is the regular ammo this gun gets. This and the T-71 get APCR as standard. So that means that the shells fly pretty quickly. They've got a pretty quick velocity. And they're trying to hit this E25. He's also got, what is that, 24 rounds of heat ammo. Now, unfortunately, he hit his T-34 ally there, but it bounced. But he apologises all the same. Very gentlemanly thing to do. Or is that about to happen with the 1375? It might be the 1375. I'm getting ahead of myself. Damn it, see now I've spoiled things. There we go. Bounces one off the friendly T-34. So, a bit of a slow start to this game. I mean, you know, it's not the most exciting. Just a bit of spotting. A couple of people try to go across the field. We've had a bunch of people come north. You know, this looks fairly standard so far. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit, and he's moved up. Turns out the enemy team not really contesting the high ground. But you can see from the minimap, there's an FCM 50T and a T-34 pushing the friendly base. Now, possibly Seb hasn't noticed that yet. He's trying to spot what might be camping at the enemy base, because it seems like there's going to be at least a few machines there. We know there was an AT-7 there, and there he is. He's been spotted on the minimap. The Object 416 is moving in. There's the Panther around somewhere. The Rheinmetall we know is down there, and Seb, you know, firing a few blind shots there. And I did mention the ammo count for a reason. It will be pertinent. He might have cause to regret those blind shots later on, we shall see. It's one of these things where the rate of fire is so fast, it's tempting to just keep holding down that left mouse button. But sometimes, you know, the ammo count on these machines can be deceptive. It's something like the Matilda Black Prince, for instance. The ammo count on that got a bit buffed, but even so, it can fire so fast with its 6-pounder gun that you can be out of ammo in a matter of minutes if you just were continuously firing. Anyway, the T-34-85, I mean, clearly they're still down there. The T-34-85 is being shot at and it's going to die very shortly. They've also got a clear run at our cap, and some of the allied team members they've noticed this. They're going back, the IS-6 and the Tiger P and the Fury, and Seb decides he's going to go back and help defend as well. So the IS, as we can see, and the T-34-85, actually he's still alive. I thought he died before this point. Shows how reliable my memory is, but then I'm having to remember the events of 4 separate replays of the same video. So this is more work than my poor brain usually has to do. But anyway, the IS is pushed round into the enemy cap, spots a bunch of stuff, but that was a foolish move because he's got no backup. Everybody else is back here with Seb and this IS-6 and the Tiger P and the Fury. And a couple of the enemy team were trying to cap the enemy Tiger and the enemy Indian Panzer, and this Indian Panzer is regretting his life choices immensely. The T-34, on the other hand, and the FCM-50T, well, the FCM is kind of pinned down. The T-34 just took a big hit. And one shot maybe? Ah, no, that was a very slightly low roll. 1 health. And also note that Seb doesn't have any HE shells, so he's gotta hit this guy with a penning AP or heat shot to kill him. But anyway, down to 15 AP shells, still got, I think, most of his heat shells. So he moves back up to the position he started off in, the spot here. Fires off, clearly expects he's going to get spotted, but apparently not. That Tiger must not have great view range. And clearly the FCM is just far back enough for the solid cover between them, but the FCM isn't spotting him either, because the FCM's got pretty decent view range. So there's that T-34 who is just slightly below the terrain there. And he spots the Tiger again. I think he must have coated optics on this machine, by the way. I mean, that's a good choice of the Walker Bulldog. It's a very mobile little machine. Generally speaking, there are a lot of scenarios where you're not just going to sit still and let your binoculars come up. You want to run away as soon as possible, and the base view range is good enough for optics versus binoculars. But anyway, the T-34 is down. The FCM, well, he managed to sneak in a shot. That T-34-85, I was so wrong. He's still alive. Just okay. Just let's, you know, just pretend I'm a professional, why don't we? So we've skipped ahead again a bit. The Yak Tiger 8.8, as we can see, just been spotted by Seb, pushing out of the enemy base, finally. The FCM 50T is still there, still grimly hanging on, but the IS-6 has gone to engage him. And that's very comfortable for the IS-6. Now, unfortunately, that shell bounced. Seb switches to heat shells because he's aware he's out of AP, or almost out of APCR. But at this point, well, and oh, hello, there's the Rheinmetall. At this point, we have evened things out considerably because it looked like the initial deployment of the team was very kind of standard. Oh, got spotted. Yep. Evasive maneuvers always sensible. It was very, like, it didn't seem like it was going to be any kind of different match. And it looked like the enemy team were then just camping at their base, but then they actually pushed round. And so the friendly team had to go back and defend. And then it's all come down to this. And this is where you can really shine in a light tank. This is where having that mobility, having that spotting range, although he's been spotted, didn't spot anything in return, good thing he's got 6th sense, eh? This is where you can be at your most effective in a fast, light vehicle with good camo and good view range. Because you can get around and spot things and alter the outcome of a battle in a way that ordinarily you couldn't. Now, unfortunately, yeah, he comes off that jump sideways, tracks himself, realises the trouble he's in because the Jagdtiger 8.8 is got a fast rate of fire and so therefore repairs his trap. Unfortunately, the Churchill GC then retracts him, and that's enough for the Jagdtiger to turn around and put another shot in. Now, he's firing nothing but heat at this point because that's literally all he's got left. But he is able to put the Jagdtiger in between him and the Churchill GC. The Rhymatool's also alive somewhere still. But it looks like it was just the Churchill GC that was shooting at him. And it was very fortunate that it was just the Churchill GC shooting at him, because if the Rhymatool had still been there, or even the Churchill 7, while he was tracked, that was a very dangerous moment indeed. And although in theory, you know, being one-on-one versus Jagdtiger 8.8 is fine, it kind of helps if you don't track yourself and then get tracked only seconds later by another machine that's shooting at you. So he explains in the chat, only 4 shells left, you know, he's letting his team know, he's providing the information, and oh, there's that Rhymatool. And at this point, well, he's better scouting. Like, he can do a couple more shots of damage, but he's better scouting. Now, he takes a very long route around. He doesn't exactly know where the Churchill GC is at this point. The IS-6, well, he's versus a pair of tier 6 tanks. He just plows straight across. Now, the Churchill GC does have shots at his rear, but either Gallant or the Tiger P or somebody lights him up. It doesn't last long. The Churchill gun carrier doesn't tend to when it's being shot at by, well, pretty much anything. It's still pretty bad, even after the buffs with the 9.8. You know, marginally better than it was, but it's still pretty bad. And we come down to a Churchill Mark 7, who isn't going to last very long against an IS-6. The Churchill Mark 7, like, the best you'll ever hear anyone say about it is, well, it's okay when it's top tier. That's true of most tanks. What you want is a tank that can, you know, stretch across all the tiers. If the Churchill only had +1, -1 matchmaking, or if it had better guns, well, then it'd be better, but that's not the case. So that was his very first game with a Defender medal and another Ace Mastery. You're probably going to see a lot of Ace Mastery games with these particular replays that I show you, because, you know, people want to show off their best games. It's only natural. So, 4,427 damage done, 4 kills, 1,700 base XP, just shy of, and by far the best on his team for score. But the IS-6 did a pretty good job as well, it must be said. So, between the IS-6 and Seb, they turned that match. That could have gone either way at various points, but they made that a win. And he definitely deserved that ace, I think. That was, you know, what better way to break in your M41 Walker Bulldog than to have a game like that. So, I hope you enjoyed this set of replays. There'll be another one in about a fortnight's time. It might be slightly delayed because, of course, Tankfest is happening in, was it 2 weekends from now? Yeah, so it's pretty close at this point. And I will be coming back on, I think, the Monday or Tuesday before the next one of these is due. So it might be a day or two delayed, but we'll see. There's normally, like, these are taking me a little bit longer to produce these videos just because there's a lot more editing work involved and selecting replays and chopping the replays up into appropriate bits and, you know. The fact that Jingles does this for every week with Mingles with Jingles and with his multi-replay videos so often, like, wow, way too much hard work, man, way too much hard work. But it's good to do it though. I mean, it's something different, and it has been an interesting experience trying something new. So if you enjoyed these replays, you can do the usual things. You can leave in the comments below, you can hit the like button, and as always, stay tuned for more.